Welcome to the Echoes of Time channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on rare historical photos and the compelling stories that are waiting for you to explore. Two African women with a striking feature: large plates inserted into their upper lips. To the European eye at the time, they seemed strange, but to their tribe, it was the standard of beauty. The lip plates were not just ornaments. They were a statement of maturity, dignity, and attractiveness. The practice of wearing the plate began in childhood. Over the years, the lips were slowly stretched until the plate became large enough to prove the girl was ready to become a woman. A group of men are attending a special class, infant care training. With the help of a female instructor and realistic dolls, they are practicing how to swaddle, hold, and place a baby in a crib properly. This is one of the rare examples before World War II showing the shift in perception about fatherhood, when caring for young children was no longer seen as strictly women's work. The people of Vietnam sought refuge in a filthy canal, escaping the bombs and gunfire in 1966. In the midst of the Vietnam War's peak, scenes like this were commonplace. During military operations like Operation Masher or Operation Hastings, thousands of people from the central and southern regions were forced to abandon their farms, finding ways to escape through each canal, each fence, and each minefield. A southern Vietnamese woman cries beside her husband's body, found among 47 others in a mass grave near Hue. Vietnam War, April 1969. The body is wrapped in plastic and laid on the sand. A conical hat lies next to it. The woman's face clearly shows her profound pain. A group of French women are shaved bald. They are called the femmes tondeuses. They are dragged from their homes, humiliated, insulted, shaved in the streets, and paraded as a public warning. Why? Many of them had relationships with German soldiers, whether voluntary or coerced. Some were even falsely accused. But when the war ended, justice was replaced by rage, and the women became scapegoats. This photo is not just a post-war moment. It is a reminder that in every war, not everyone is fairly judged. And shame. Sometimes it lasts longer than the war itself. A man is blindfolded, tightly bound to a chair. Electric wires coil beneath his feet. This is not a scene from a horror movie. It is a real execution in the United States in 1956. Since the late 19th century, the electric chair became a controversial symbol of American justice. It was considered more humane than hanging. But in reality, many executions caused severe burns, charred flesh, or stretched on for agonizing minutes. A prison in the United States in the mid-20th century, capturing a moment before the execution by gas chamber. This method was first used in 1924 in Nevada and was considered more humane compared to the electric chair. The execution method was primarily used in states like California, Arizona, and Mississippi until it was discontinued at the end of the 20th century due to controversy over its humanity and the severe physiological consequences. In the midst of a battlefield where the very AIR could kill, two German soldiers in uniform sit beside a donkey, all three equipped with gas masks. In World War I, war went beyond bullets. It spread into the air. Poison gas was released from both sides of the front lines, causing death to come silently, invisibly. And to survive, both humans and animals had to learn to breathe in fear. Animals like horses and donkeys were not just transportation, they were silent companions. When the front lines were filled with toxic gas, they too were equipped with masks, not out of humanity, but because they were also vital links in the war machine. A child, their face covered by a gas mask. In their hand is a glass bottle, not for drinking, but a makeshift Molotov cocktail. The photo was taken in Derry, Northern Ireland in 1969 during the fierce street battle known as the Battle of the Bogside. At that time, Irish Catholics rose up against discrimination from the British government. Derry became the front lines. Residents built barricades, throwing Molotov cocktails at the police. The photo was taken in the UK during the 1940s, at the height of World War II. In the image, nurses are practicing the use of special gas masks designed for infants, a device meant to protect babies from the threat of chemical attacks. Although it may seem bulky and terrifying, this equipment was considered necessary in the context of the UK's fear that Nazi Germany would use chemical weapons during air raids. 5 women standing against the wall, their hands shackled, their necks locked. They are not criminals, they are commodities. In 1865, on Zanzibar, an island fragrant with cloves and pepper, there was a commodity more valuable than spices: human beings. Zanzibar was once the largest slave trade hub in East Africa. Thousands of men, women, and children were captured from the interior, chained and driven onto ships. Their destinations: Oman, India, Persia, or plantations thousands of miles away. Even though Britain had banned the slave trade, that ban could not break the boundaries of greed. The shackles were still forged daily, right at the sun-drenched port. A dazed face, empty eyes covered in dust and grime. The photo, taken in 1966 in Vietnam, captures the moment a U.S. soldier was pulled from the hell of battle. The Vietnam War had entered its most brutal phase. Forests, swamps, ambushes, and bombs didn't just take lives. They destroyed psyches. The soldier in the photo survived, but his eyes show he's been through something terrifying and filled with fear. The tradition of foot-stomping grapes has existed for thousands of years, not just in Italy, but across Europe. It helps crush the grapes gently, without breaking the seeds, preserving the wine's delicate and smooth taste. At this time, small wineries still operate with traditional methods. Women often participate in the early stages, harvesting, sorting, and crushing the grapes. Amidst a warehouse overflowing with white ivory, dozens of men gather. The photo was taken in Africa around 1880. At that time, ivory was white gold. It was hunted, traded, and transported across the world, from the jungles of Congo to the Paris fairs. But behind those ivory tusks were the blood and sweat of millions of African people, forced to hunt, carry, and transport. A man performs a somersault, balancing on one hand atop another man's head, keeping his body suspended in perfect balance. The photo may seem staged, but it actually reflects the refined and vibrant entertainment culture of Japan after World War II. It was a period of intense reconstruction when the Japanese preserved traditional culture like kimonos and tea ceremonies, while also developing performing arts such as kabuki theater, circus acts, and acrobats. A young boy, his face covered in pie filling, has just won first prize in a pie-eating contest, a popular folk game at local fairs in the post-World War II era. Such contests were commonly held at summer festivals, schools, or rural fairs where participants had to eat as fast as possible without using their hands. A Chinese woman, dressed in traditional attire, sits in a posture that reveals her small feet, severely deformed. The 2 curled, abnormally small feet are the result of the foot binding tradition. Foot binding began when young girls were very small. Their toes were broken, pressed tightly against the soles, and tightly bound with cloth for years. Each step was a painful one, but in feudal society, it was considered the price for prestige. The foot binding practice was officially banned in 1912. Yet well into the 1930s, many Chinese women still lived with these deformed feet, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. A vibrant moment on the streets. A young man rides a bicycle carrying a pile of newspapers towering over his head, while another person sits on top of the pile, casually reading a newspaper as the bike moves. This was how Mexicans delivered newspapers in 1977. As urbanization boomed, Printed newspapers were the lifeblood of the city. 3 women are publicly punished with the neck collar, a form of torture common in feudal East Asian societies. The heavy, cumbersome collar is fastened around the neck, making it impossible for the wearer to lower their head or eat and drink easily. This was a method used to intimidate and publicly humiliate individuals before the crowd. A dry branch hanging with plastic bags filled with goldfish. This is not art, it's a livelihood. Beirut, Lebanon, 1983. At this time, Lebanon was sinking into civil war, yet amidst the chaos, the need for beauty and life still existed. The people of Beirut continued to raise birds, plant flowers, and even keep ornamental fish. Goldfish, small, easy to care for, became a popular hobby, a way to hold on to a little peace in days filled with uncertainty. Before you could press a button to make ice, there were people who had to deliver ice door to door every single day. In 1918, during World War I, many women entered the workforce to replace the men who went off to fight. And they didn't just become secretaries or nurses. They also took on hard labor like delivering ice. They carried massive blocks of ice weighing dozens of kilos, using iron hooks, walking from house to house, shop to shop. They brought coolness to the wooden boxes lined with tin, called ice boxes, the predecessors of today's refrigerators.